Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have a terrific day ahead of you. In today's version of team selection, well, it's not one that I was expecting to film this time yesterday, and it's probably not one you were expecting either. So, coming up, what you have is why I'm selling Mohamed Salah and who I'm selling him for, and where the armband goes as such. I'll also look ahead to Wildcard 13 and show you a proposed draft that I currently have, and I'm looking to get something similar, right? Things will change, and use that to justify why, or one reason why I don't want to wildcard earlier. And then I'll also look ahead at my transfer plans because they, of course, would have changed now that Mohamed Salah is being sold in Game Week 5 when that was very much meant to be Game Week 6 move. So a lot to look forward to today. If you enjoy the video at any point, a like, a subscribe, a hype, all would be greatly appreciated. Additionally, if you've enjoyed it any time in the past, a subscribe to the channel would be magnificent. Enjoy, and that's about it for this introduction. However, before all of that, a look at my defense, which is certainly looking fairly strong this week. Double defense away at Burnley is something that's preferable. It's not a slam dunk in the same way that going away to promoted sides have been in the past few seasons, because as Burnley have shown, they're a very competent team, and especially through Lara Foster, they can certainly hurt you. I mean, they should have scored against Spurs Game Week 1, not just once, but probably multiple times. They did so twice at Old Trafford. They didn't really have much against Liverpool, but you can't blame them too much for that. And obviously they win Game Week 2 against Sunderland, right? So they've certainly got enough to score. However, as the fixtures go, it's still one of the better ones. I mean, the fact that they can actually attack a bit, and Ange Postecoglou's system sells his ceiling because he might make some saves. With Neco, I was just thinking, maybe this role for attacking returns actually might be a little bit better. There's a couple ways I can envisage him getting it. One, inverting off that right-hand side. I assume Zinchenko's to do that off the left. And then from there, like a very vertical pass to break the lines into Gibbs White, especially if they're trying to break down a deep block. And then maybe a return straight from there. Gibbs White turns and shoots. Alternatively, if he is to have this starting inverting position in those quicker attacks, or it goes out to the wing and then comes back inside, maybe he's able to arrive in a better shooting position, one which wasn't really accessible to himself at fullback, and then from there he could, maybe score a goal, get an assist, maybe cross from the half space as opposed to from always from so wide. And then especially because they may have more numbers in the box now for us, this is an avenue to returns from his cross. So it remains to be seen, but it's possible. Cucurella, his quality as an asset very much depends on the system we implement. For example, if Malagustos to start at right back, and then you can almost guarantee that Cucurella will form the back three in possession and not be bombing forward. However, if he doesn't, whatever iteration we play other than that, without Gusto, I think you'll see a lot more of Cucurella hitting that last line and all the other good things he does as an attacking FPL asset. So it's very much dependent on Gusto starting. The only thing is, he did say that Gusto played very well midweek, so maybe he rewards him with another start, but I wouldn't be surprised for reasons we shall discuss later if he actually doesn't. And then the last one is Milos Kerkez. Now, you will see, and there's a bit of a spoiler, but Iliman Ndiaye does line up in the 11 for me. So it's obviously not ideal to have an attacker against your defender. But in this type of game, I could envisage Ndiaye getting DEFCON and maybe Kerkez keeping a clean sheet. And if he doesn't, then at least Ndiaye will hopefully profit from an Everton goal. There's definitely some question marks over his starting because obviously he was hooked away at Burnley in the first half, and then Robertson started the Champions League. But because Robbo started the UCL and he hasn't played too much football, I don't think he'll go back-to-back, and I personally expect Milos Kerkez to start. If he doesn't, then I guess that's just one I'll have to take on the chin, especially with Aït-Nouri out and I haven't got much depth. But for now, that's what it will be. A couple of things that I concluded this section without speaking about. So now are Burnley and Aït-Nouri. Starting with Burnley, I just fancy Forest to do better in that game, hence why both of them get benched. Could Estev start over Kerkez? Yeah, he could, but when I already have Chris Wood in my side and double Forest defence, I'd rather bet on Kerkez and Liverpool's defence. And then in terms of Aït-Nouri, what's my plan with him? Well, he will be leaving the side, hopefully, in Game Week 7 for Gabriel when they have West Ham at home. And that's pretty much all there is to be said on those guys. I thought it best to address these guys before I get into Mohamed Salah specifically. Now, the toss-up between Josh King and Iliman Ndiaye is interesting. Obviously, Josh King has Brentford at home, a better fixture, and he doesn't counter one of my defenders, right? However, I'm just not completely convinced that he starts. The expected minutes in terms of when he does start aren't really much of an issue for me. Obviously, I'd prefer he doesn't get hooked in the 59th, but one would assume he usually makes it to 60. So him not getting the last 20, last 8 isn't as big of a concern for me. It's just whether or not he starts. I mean, he's had 4 blanks in a row. They've obviously got Kevin now. They've got Chukwueze. What if he decides to give Iwobi a game in the middle and Kevin on the left, who looked very sharp against Leeds when he came on? What if he decides to bring Emil Smith-Rowe into the side for this particular game against a fairly physical Brentford side, right? All of those things. I don't want to take the risk with the bench camo because he will almost certainly come on with the type of substitutions Marco Silva typically makes. So for now, Iliman Ndiaye starts. And you know what? I can imagine like Everton taking up the ball from their left-hand side, whipping it across, and then Ndiaye getting on the end of something. If he is to find himself in a pocket in the final third, I think he could hurt them. With transitions, one consideration I have is the distances of them and the fact that they've got 2 carries on either side in Ndiaye and Grealish, so you don't really have that outlet where you can just play a pass into. Rather, it's going to be a lot of carrying. So I'm not 100% like confident in attacking return, but it's possible, and he's always got penalties there. The thing I like a lot is where he's going to play, and the fact that Liverpool have so much left-hand side coverage with Wirtz drifting there, Waketike drifting there, and Gakpo already there, and Kirkes as well, Clash Robertson. The chance of him getting DEFCON is fairly decent, especially considering he did well against Leeds in the DEFCON department, and obviously hit 14 last time against Villa. That's that. Semenyo is a no-brainer, and we'll speak about him when we come to captaincy, and then Gakpo. Like I have to start him, right? I mean, what I did is I sacrificed Reinders last week so that I could get Gakpo, knowing that it may cost me an extra transfer / a hit down the line to attack the upside of Burnley away, Everton at home. Mainly Burnley away, though. Obviously, for now, they're still equal, but you never know what could happen in this game. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be starting Cody Gakpo. Now we can go on to the big one. The man you can see at the top of your screen, Cole Palmer, is the one who will be coming in. The man who departs, which is Mohamed Salah on the bottom. So why? The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to address the positives I see with Cole Palmer, and then I will go on to what I don't like with Salah, which really isn't particularly extensive. It's quite small. It's more so what I like about Palmer and the upside on offer this week. So firstly, what I think Enzo Maresca is going to do with this Chelsea team. Now, this isn't a definite, and it's not also the absolute reason that I'm doing it, but it's certainly a positive. With his comments on Gusto midweek, and with the fact that we also have Esteval, I think we're going to see Palmer pop up on the right-hand side a lot more because I think either Esteval or Gusto will hold his width. Now, if it's Esteval, you'll see more fluidity between them, but you'll still see him pull to the right-hand side more, which I think is better. And that is probably the best way to platform him. You saw against Bayern how threatening he looked. And when he's in those positions, well, is there anyone really better in the world at the moment? Maybe, maybe not, but it's certainly not a long list if there is. So that's that, right? That's the first thing. Then, secondly, I look at Man United. I look at their 5-2-3. And when we catch them in that 5-2-3 structure, let's say he rotates out of a slightly more advanced position, pulls a little bit wider to receive, he's going to have so much more time and space than he would against a more compact midfield. And the other thing with that is, let's take Palace, right, who implement, I guess, on paper, a similar structure. It doesn't function the same, but a similar structure on paper. Well, they had Wharton, they have Hughes in the middle, who can get around a little bit more. Whereas on that side, whether it's Casemiro who's contending with him or Ugarte, I can see a lot more problems with them being able to contain Palmer and cope with the physicality in that game. So that's another thing. Now, obviously, if they get into that 5-4-1 very early and then the whole block's essentially in front of us, then yeah, it's harder to break down. But with the lack of aggressiveness from the wide centre-backs and the two I spoke about in midfield, one of the two playing, I still think Palmer in the pockets there when he receives can certainly hurt them. Then the next thing I want to speak about is transitions. When they wing back spring and they've already got 3 up top, so I only leave 2 in the middle, neither of which are like huge space eaters, the Caicedo type. And then the 3 centre-backs they have, I think they're so exploitable there. I mean, they look so exploitable there against City. And with that, I don't think there's anyone better stationed, if he's especially in the right positions, to go and hurt them. Now, let's assume he's at the top of the diamond. For me, Everton is a harder fixture. I'd much rather have Man United than Everton at the moment if I wanted my captain to score a big haul. Right? I also prefer Palmer's positioning at the top of the diamond to Salah's out wide, which we'll come on to. And this time around, either with Neto on the left-hand side or Garnacho, I don't think Gittins will get the nod in this game, given how he's been playing at the moment. I would expect Cole Palmer at the top of the diamond to have a better relationship with the guy on the left wing and maybe be able to hurt a little bit more there. Something else that I've considered is maybe he starts Tyreek George up top, Maybe João Pedro actually ends up playing left 10 with Cole Palmer right 10. And João Pedro will do a lot of his defensive work as well. Like out of the 2 10s, you'll get a lot more defensive output there. Not to say Palmer won't do anything, but it will be someone to help. So in that sense, like where he's stationed for the whole game and the relationships he'll have on the pitch, I think they'll be pretty good. And that's mainly it from that side on Palmer. In terms of United, I'd say they're one of the better teams to play at the moment. I just look at them and nothing's pretty much going right there. And I quite like capitalizing on that downward momentum that they're having at the moment. I spoke increasingly this season about not trying to time the bottom, and I'm not with them. If they're in free fall and they're just not looking great, I'm more than happy to capitalize on that. Then moving into FPL a little bit more. Oh, one thing about him. Post-injury Palmer has looked great. That's another big thing that I really could have started with. He's looked absolutely great. I mean, coming back from Brentford, the performance against Bayern looked so good. And then from FPL, there's a lot of upside to it, right? Obviously, there's the downside, which is certainly present, but that's going to happen with a decision like this. But the fact that the upside's on offer when I like the matchup, I think is great. And then down the line, as you'll see in transfer plans, it's a move which allows me to not have Gakpo down the line, but to have Palmer. Yeah, maybe with a hit, but I think that can certainly be repaid, especially when it's captain on captain, right? And the swings are just doubled as such. It allows me to have Palmer for Brighton at home and the fixtures in 7 and 8 as opposed to Gakpo, which I feel better about considering what I've seen from post-injury Palmer. So those are all the positives on him that I like. And obviously the huge upside, as mentioned. With Salah, there's not too much bad I have to say, right? I still recognize the quality of player, the quality of team. And that's another thing, right? Their team is so good, just in a moment they can hurt you. Between Verts, Ekitike, and Gakpo, I don't think so much that Isak's going to start in this game. But they've got so much quality that they can hurt you. But my line of thinking is that, one, his positioning at the moment, I still think he's fairly wide. And he's not really coming in inside as much, in combination with the fact that the supply he had last season from whether that be the right central midfielder or the right back is certainly not the same level. And then, like I said, Everton, I just think are a better side. And they'll pose Liverpool more of a challenge than United would pose Chelsea. That's my opinion of it at the moment. If Everton set up 4-4-2, then I really see this being a decision which I probably wouldn't have made. But my expectation is they go 4-5-1, and that makes it considerably harder than it would if it was a 4-4-2. So I have some faith in them. Look, at the end of the day, I'm still very well aware that Salah could haul. I understand the quality of player, and Everton aren't this impenetrable defense. But with what I've seen so far, I'm happy to take it on with everything taken into consideration. And you know what? I was going to sell Salah in 6, and like I said, I get the Palmer upside over Gakpo in 6, 7, and 8. So it's a nice little play there. Yeah, of course, I could just do that next week. But for me, with the upside that Palmer has with United away, I want to take that on. I like the matchup. Moving on to the forwards before we finish with captaincy. A quick roundup of them. I mean, with Evan Nilsson, he plays a Newcastle side who have a Thursday night fixture in the Champions League, right? And then they turn around all the way to Bournemouth, which is a decent travel distance, for a Sunday 2 p.m. fixture. Easy selection there, especially when he's in form as well as Bournemouth. João Pedro, my favourite forward in the game. I really like the fixture, as you probably would have guessed from the last section. And as such, I've got to start him, right? Good ceiling against United. And who else am I going to play? Yeah, maybe Josh King, but I don't think I'll play him over JP. I wouldn't be surprised if King starts, then he does return this game. And then Wood, whilst I think it's a ticking time bomb with him, because I'm expecting him to get dropped, not for this game, but maybe even as soon as Sunderland in game week 6, I'll be selling him, so I don't mind too much. I actually don't think, whilst he's not an Ange Postecoglou striker, I don't think the system for him is particularly bad. I mean, he'll still get service from the wingers, given the type of profiles they have there. And then the 8s will certainly be able to supply and interact with him as well. So with his positioning being primarily pretty close to the box, in and around there, not having to drop deep too much, given the type of players Forest have as well, and the fact that I don't think Andrew put the same pressing requirements on him as he did Solanke. With this fixture, I can actually see it going pretty decently, but then I'll probably be moving on swiftly afterwards. And that's the team before we get into captaincy. I do not have a great, big, elaborate analysis as to why I've shifted from Antoine Semenyo as my number 1 captain to Cole Palmer. Obviously, I gave a more in-depth analysis on Semenyo yesterday, and I've done so on Palmer today. What I can say, honestly, is that I just trust Palmer a little bit more with the armband, and that's quite literally it. One other thing that I've definitely taken into consideration is what's Newcastle's likelihood to concede 3-4 plus? Unlikely. Whereas with United, I think it's certainly more of a possibility, especially if Chelsea hit their stride, right? And I'd say Newcastle are a better side than United. But whilst I still really like the Semenyo captain, I think there's a lot of upside to be had there with how much more I trust Palmer. Not that it's a huge amount, but it's certainly there. And maybe the quality of opposition taken into account. I'm going to be going with a Cole Palmer captain, and I guess really trying to maximize the upside from the move that I'm making. So yeah, lining up for Game Week 5, that is very, very, very likely how I will look. So what you can see on screen is the Fantasy Football Hub My Team AI tool. And I'm essentially just going to show you how my team is slightly differed with the transfer in of Palmer. Now, why I like it, and very, very briefly, and without being in too much detail, up to Game Week 12, so that I can lead on to the next section nicely, right? And I'm hoping that the feed in OBS from the screen doesn't change. All right, so this is what it looks like this week. I mean, triple Forest away at Burnley, triple Chelsea away at United, double Bournemouth, which is a nice long-term hold, and then the guys from the game in Liverpool. All things considered, especially when I look at other teams, I quite like it. Then in Game Week 6, this is where I take a hit, and it's essentially Haaland and Rangers for Gakpo and Chris Wood. Now, if I was using the old strategy, Palmer would be Gakpo. Now, it's Palmer captain and Palmer in Game Week 5 and 6 versus Salah captain, Gakpo, and 4 points. I'm okay taking the upside with Palmer there. I think he can certainly repay that. And if not in Game Week 6, then Game Week 7 maybe, when he has Liverpool at home, and obviously Gakpo has Chelsea away. I prefer Palmer for that. You'll also see, and I'm just going to double check that it's still recording. Yeah, it is. I brought in Gabriel this game week, right, for Ryan Aït-Nouri. Now, is a team like super, super strong this week? No, but it's certainly not bad, right? It's certainly not bad. And at some point, we're all going to have to make sacrifices with the quality of the game week. And for me, it's just this one. And then to an extent, 8. I mean, this is still quite strong. All things considering, I could also make a transfer here. I've got a game week rating of 90%. Like, look, again, I agree that this game week 8 side is probably not as strong as I would like. But, you know, it could be worse. And with what I'm going to get down the line, as I'll show you, I think it's worth it. Okay, and then here we go, right? This is where it starts to pick up, even though the game week ratings got worse. I mean, what I've done here is I've actually taken out Erling Haaland because I was going to take him out in game week 10 regardless, because I just prefer Isak away at Brentford at the moment, as opposed to Haaland for Aston Villa. That's what I'm expecting down the line. And you know what? If I don't want to take him out, no biggie. But you can see, I mean, I've got Gabriel Cucurella, Kirkes, very strong defense. Dubravka away at Wolves, cool. An Ange Postecoglou type of Forest side with double Bournemouth attack, triple Chelsea for Sunderland. It's strong, right? And Iliman Ndiaye is just never present, and an option I think that could be very solid, right? And you've got Rangers as well, who I really like the look of, and I think he's been super unlucky not to return a bit more. Game week 10, what you'll see here is it's optimized to put Saka on the bench, but essentially move into double Arsenal defense, right, for Burnley away, as opposed to just a single one. Have Saka as a captaincy option for Burnley away, great. I've got Ndiaye with Sunderland away. I'll have Isak for Villa at home. I've got triple Chelsea, which isn't great against Spurs, but there'll be goals in that game. And then the double up of Semenyo Evanilson. I don't need to 100%. And no hits have been taken so far, apart from the one I'm taking Game Week 5. I don't need to 100% even play both of them. I could always play 4-4-2. If I really want to start Williams against United, if they still look that bad, I could start King if he's maybe playing. But, you know, this overall is quite strong. Game week 11. I mean, now, again, I don't have to necessarily play both of these guys from Bournemouth against Villa. I probably will. He's got a good fixture. They've got good fixtures. He's got a good fixture. There's just a lot of upside here, right? And the reason I didn't go Gyökeres is I felt like it was unnecessary considering JP and Evanilson are there and the quality they possess. And then the fact that this last spot can be taken up by Isak and I can have Saka instead. So 11's still fairly strong, and 12 is the same. Obviously, I haven't even made any transfers in... Did I make any in 10? Yeah, I made one in 10, but I didn't make one in 11. I haven't made one in 12, so I can certainly make some upgrades, you know, elsewhere. And it looks strong. Like if you flick through the team consistently, it does look strong. So I'm more than happy with it. And I don't think at any point it looks like it's in need of a wildcard. I also look at wildcards in that period. And it's very difficult to time because the fixtures ebb and flow so quickly. For example, United in game week 6, Brentford away, Sunderland at home in 7, great. But then straight after Liverpool away, not as ideal, right? So there's that. And then if I move to this, that's what the wildcard draft could look like in 13. And if you can compare that to what I just showed you here with this team, it looks so different. It looks so different. And the upside to a draft like this, triple City for Leeds at home, triple Liverpool for West Ham, triple Brentford, Semenyo for Sunderland, it's really strong. Isak as well. And Voltemada and Livramento. Rice doesn't need to be there, right? Like, for example, Gakpo, Isak, Rice could become someone a little cheaper than Rice plus Salah, but for now, that's what I like. And then in free hit 14, right, you can see the difference already in the power of the free hit there, whilst allowing me to keep a wildcard 13 draft that looks great for that week and the weeks to come, right? I get Salah's part triple Liverpool for Sunderland at home. I'll have triple Chelsea, who I won't have any of in this wildcard draft because the fixtures either side are tougher. I get Palace for Burnley away. I get Arsenal for Wolves at home. I get to offload the City and Brentford assets because City have Fulham away, generally a tough fixture to score goals. And Brentford I think they've got a pretty tough game as well that week. Might be Spurs. I'm not 100% sure. And that's pretty strong. And then game week 16, the bench boost again. It's double Burnley defense at home to Fulham. That could change. Maybe it's someone else instead of double Burnley. And then it's maybe even Livramento and Voltemada in a really good fixture at home. If not, maybe Rice. It's strong. Like, it's very strong. If not, maybe Rangers. Like, it's really strong and stronger than the ones I see now. And it's just completely different to what we're looking at with an earlier wildcard. And I think my team's strong enough. So I'm just showing you the plan I'm currently rocking, and I'm quite happy with it. And in fact, I'm very happy with it. That is all she wrote for this one, ladies and gentlemen. I certainly hope you enjoyed all the moving parts, enjoyed all the big decisions, ones which will, I'm sure, be enjoyable in weeks to come. If you did enjoy at any point, a like, a subscribe, a hype, all would be very much appreciated. But other than that, I shall see you for solving your problems. And in the meantime, have a terrific day. Goodbye.